So Winnie, thank you. This is Chuck. Thanks again. And as everyone knows, Winnie is ubiquitous. You see her on CNBC, you see her on Fox Business News. She's all over the place, and her opinion really matters in the marketplace. And we thought it'd be a great opportunity for her to kind of share with us, with the MCA community, kind of her observations. I think we're in uncharted territory, but Winnie's really great at providing some perspective, historical perspective, and kind of what should we do now? What should people do now? We've been through this massive correction, and 30 million people have applied for unemployment in the last 5 weeks or so. So we wanted to invite Winnie on here, just kind of share her perspective of what to do in a situation like this. So Winnie, thanks so much for joining the MCA team.
Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here with all of you. And it's a beautiful Tuesday, and most of us are home, but certainly there's been a lot of chaos, if you will, in our lives, as well as in so many people's lives all across the world. And certainly that's trickled down to the financial markets, which you see now. And I know many of you are in this industry and know it very, very well, leading your own businesses, sort of trying to get ourselves out of the tunnel, if you will. And unfortunately, there's so many factors that are keeping us down significantly beyond earnings and fiscal policy and financial statistics and everything else that we typically surround ourselves with. So I am honored to be here with all of you, and I'm happy to have this discussion with all of you.
Okay, so just a little background about yourself. I love the story, Winnie, about this isn't the first time you've been challenged in life. I love the personal story about when you were preparing to attend college. So just so people understand that we're all kind of dealt curveballs in life. Do you want to kind of just provide a little background on that?
Sure, sure. So some of you may know, and if you don't know, I'm really glad to be here with all of you. I often get asked if I always wanted to be a financial advisor. I think, many people see me on shows like CNBC and Good Day LA and Fox. Basically, I'm on the news almost every day during the week. And the answer is interesting enough, definitely not. I mean, as a kid, I'm sure many of you have children out there. I've got 3 downstairs. I actually had no idea what a financial advisor was. It wasn't nobody in my life really was a financial advisor. And I always wanted just to be a kid and be a teacher and whatnot. But really how it started is about 3 months prior to me starting college. It's like the typical Asian kid, right? At home, I had basically 2 choices. It was either an A or A plus, or you were out the door. So my whole life during high school, junior high, whatnot, was always to get good grades. I mean, I was certainly not a stellar athlete. So, I was working on my strengths, and my parents pushed me really hard. So about, I got into most every college that I wanted to get into, Ivy Leagues and state and local. And I was all excited to go to a private school here in California, and really, really top school. And I remember 3 months before leaving for college, my mom pulled me aside. And understand, my mom is like tough as nails, right? She's like that typical story that you hear about the Asian mom, right? The dragon mom, who, tough as nails, like always pushed us hard. She was basically all in all the time. And then she actually pulled me aside, and she almost had what I call shiny eyeball. And I was like, what's going on? And she's like, I need to talk to you and this and that. And she was actually getting kind of like a little bit emotional, which is so unlike her, because my dad's like the nice, soft one, but my mom's like tough. And I said, what's going on? And she says, remember that project that your dad and I invested in Claremont? And I said, yeah, the condo or something, right? And she's like, yeah, well, what you didn't know is that was supposed to help us pay for you and your sister's college education. And one of the partners in the deal went bankrupt, and it was a bad deal. And so we have to go bankrupt. And therefore, you're not going to be able to go to your top choice school, right? That I had gotten some scholarships and admitted and all that, but it wasn't enough. So I said, no problem. Then so I ended up going to state. I went to UCLA here locally. And really, that was sort of my eye-opening experience because I have Asian parents that are like incredible savers. I mean, like when I was growing up, a highlight would be like once a month we would go to Burger King and they had like some 29, 39 cent burger deal. And it was like, whoa, we're actually going out to eat. But we grew up very, very in a really tight, financially tight household where my parents would save every last penny. And yet they made a poor investment decision. So I remember going into college when most people were excited about their roommates and maybe rushing a sorority or fraternity. I mean, my job was just to get not one job, but multiple jobs, not to even think about paying for college, but really to help my mom and dad pay for the home to keep the house because my dad was feeling so guilty from this financial decision that he actually went through this process where he actually couldn't mentally work. He just like became like a little ball and he couldn't function. So it was really just helping my mom keep the house. And my sister was 2 years young, is 2 years younger, and helping her save to pay for college. So long story short, that's really how I became a financial advisor with the intention that at some point I needed to know more about finances than my parents. And then at one point I needed to help them make better financial decisions so we didn't repeat this process later on in their lives. And so that was pretty much it. And so, you know, um, when I went to college, I started a television audience production company. And so this was sort of with the scope of I was thinking at that point, when you're an Asian kid, you pretty much had three choices in life. You're either a doctor, you're an attorney, or you're like an engineer. But you pretty much come in three flavors. So obviously, when I went to UCLA as pre-med, and then after a few courses and a few quarters, I realized that I was not destined to be a doctor. And then so my mom's like, okay, then, what are you gonna do next? I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll be an attorney because I really love to read. And so I got a internship on a TV show called Jones and Jury, starring the attorney Star Jones. And I was supposed to be brought on to do legal research, right? One of my numerous jobs. But on the first day that I was there, they said, you know what, UCLA, we're short a person on the audience. So you're going to help with the audience department. I said, great. So I went to the audience department. I became what they call an assistant page, intern page, right, that day. So it's just a glorified role of walking people to and from the audience all day, from outside to sitting in the audience to the restroom and back. That was my role. And I guess I did a pretty good job walking people to and from the audience because eventually I got promoted to different roles. Eventually, when the audience producer went on medical leave, I stepped in. And eventually, one of the executive producers on a show called America's Funniest Home Videos pulled me aside and said, Winnie, if you start your own company, I think he still called me UCLA, but anyway, he said, if you start your own company, I'll send you all my shows and my daughter's shows. And his daughter handled all the MTV shows at the time. And that's really how it all came to be. I started a television audience production company managing shows. I was meeting thousands of people per week to different various shows. At one point, I was doing 8 or 9 different productions while still going to school full time at UCLA. And eventually, we were the second biggest television audience production company in the nation. And this is when I was about 22. And eventually, that's how it sort of, that was sort of like a really aha moment because I kept working hard, and I started improving myself financially. And then I started taking, how, well, back then, we didn't have Netflix. So there was periods of hiatus when shows would be dark. And that's when I started taking the personal financial planning program, certificate program at UCLA at night, just to appease my parents. And it wasn't like just slacking off when we weren't that busy during shows. And that's when I started taking the program. I was almost finished with it. And then the dean of the program, who was my professor, pulled me aside and says, "You're ready for Smith Barney." And I went to interview at Smith Barney. I got multiple offers, and I sold my business and put on my first suit and started working at Smith Barney. So that's really how I became a financial advisor. So thank you so much for indulging me, for letting me share that story with you. But I hope it gives you some idea of like where I came from and why is it that I do what I do. I mean, I am a financial advisor because I absolutely love helping people and making money relatable, certainly I do quite a bit now. Thankfully, I've always felt that it was important to have good, solid financial advice. But I think the thing that my clients will say about me all the time, and what I'm really proud of, is they say that like I have a very, very esteemed C-level executive in the entertainment business, and she said, you know, it, for years I've had a financial advisor. She's like, I always had one, and the company assigns me one because of my level of finances. But it's not until I met you that I could actually understand what you're telling me. And I think that's really important in our industry. I think we need to do a better job of explaining things to regular people. So hopefully that helps. And so Chuck, I guess that's where really how everything started.
That's great, Winnie. And then I'm sure you proceeded to dial for dollars at Smith Barney, and you worked incredibly hard. And I think a lot of our members can appreciate that. They're extremely hardworking. The vast majority of our members are incredibly hard workers, and whether it's the C-suite executives who run some of the multinationals, or the middle market business owners, or the small business owners who are members of our organization, they can certainly appreciate, and your message about hard work, it resonates with them. And so, and that personal anecdote about how you didn't get to go to your dream college, but you turned out okay. And so basically, the entire country has been dealt a blow. They've been dealt a personal blow, maybe not as much as having a family bankruptcy, but 2 months ago, a lot of our business owners were doing incredibly well, and they're still doing okay right now. But my God, the world's changed in 2 months. And so what should they do now? What should people do now? Now that we've taken this punch in the gut as a country, what do they do now?
So that's a great question. And I think, when you're looking at your own business, you can only do what you can do each and every day, right? You can only push your business and do as much as you have customers and clients that need your services. And during this time, although, if we were to rewind just a couple months ago, the economy was doing fine. Business was doing great. Americans were doing wonderful. Unemployment was doing so well. And yet, fast forward 2 months, now we're sitting where we're at, and we're all here together. Things have changed so rapidly. Now, the good news is that there's really America was just fine a couple months ago. We've gotten hit by the coronavirus, something we can't control. This pandemic, if you will, has caused us to be completely halted. So, like you said, 30 million of us, 30 million plus of us are unemployed right now. And I think that number it's just a fraction of what the true numbers are, because a lot of people who haven't filed for unemployment and just don't have the capacity to do so right now. That being said, if we take a look at experiences such as, we've never had something this large. My 8-year-old was asking me yesterday, and he said, Mommy, is this the biggest pandemic we've ever had? I was like, yeah, this is the biggest we've ever experienced for sure. And I'm sure for you, and definitely for me. And he's like, wow, this is big. And I was like, it really is. And so we can't control when we're going to get into a better stage. But we do know from looking at experiences such as SARS, that in the case of SARS, SARS was obviously large, but not to the degree that it is now, because it didn't really affect here in the States, in our backyards, right? Like America wasn't hit as hard as many countries were in terms of SARS. But with SARS, what happened was the market took about 3 months to come down aggressively, and then it sat in the bottom there for about 3 months, and it took about a little over 3 months to improve and to get to better normal levels. And so that was like more than 9 months. And so, given the size of how big the coronavirus is and how quickly it pulled us down, like look at it's 6 weeks right now that we're looking at here in California, and the dramatic change that it's had not only on our financial statements but on our lives with our children and everything else. The good news is, though, it will come back. It always comes back. I was at Smith Barney office during 9/11, the financial crisis, the housing crisis, it always comes back. It's really a matter of time of how long and what that looks like. But for many of you who run businesses and are very, very hardworking and are just keeping the faith right now, doing everything you possibly can, I would say right now you got to do more of that. You got to get really, really creative. Think outside the box. Think about the situation that we are in. Think about how you can serve your existing um, clientele or customers in a different way, and you will be fine. The good news is, it's not really good news, but sort of silver lining is that the entire world is going through this together. So although our financial balance sheets, many of us look down 30, 40, maybe more, the rest of the world is suffering the same, maybe not equally, but also suffering. They could probably suffer even more than we're suffering here. And the other silver lining is the federal government is doing everything they possibly can to help us stay afloat, at least for the next 8 weeks or more. Um, and a lot of people have been asking me on the news of whether I think the stimulus packages is that they've released uh, are going to work. And the good news is we've seen this in the past. So the stimulus check that a lot of people were receiving, you might not have been receiving, perhaps because your income is too high. But those of you who did receive it, congratulations. And we have certainly seen this situation in past case studies, and it certainly has helped. In addition, the PPP with small business owners, some of you may have applied for that loan, and if you did, great. Hopefully you got approved and you receive those funds, and hopefully that can help you pay for your employees and keep your businesses afloat. And I certainly hope that you took that next step. And we're looking at now a fourth stimulus package. And I've been asked a lot whether or not I think the package will come. And I said, I don't think there's a option not to have a fourth package at this point. It's just a matter of what that package is going to look like. And certainly, I think there's been talk, the president's hoping for a reduction in payroll tax. Um, it depends on which side of the fence you're on and how you feel about that. Certainly, I think that the more money we can get to our seniors, our employees, ourselves, business owners, I think the better, because we are not looking for a free handout, you and I. We are looking for ways to keep ourselves afloat, to keep our businesses afloat, which I think is so important. I am not a political person, and so I wouldn't comment in that direction, but I think any way to keep our businesses functioning during this difficult time, and ourselves and our employees paid, right, and 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 getting more people to be sustainable so they can be productive once we get out of this mess is a positive. And I think for the economy, the stock market, and everybody around. I think the thing that concerns me is when you hear about stories where employers like ourselves are asking for employees to come back to work, maybe even at home, working safely at home, but employees don't want to because of the stimulus package giving them more money, so their unemployment pays them higher wages than what their job would pay. And I think that is concerning because we don't want our employees to become dependent on these stimulus packages, but rather to keep working, keeping productive, I think is critical for not just our businesses, but the economy in general. So hopefully that answers that.
It does. Absolutely. Thank you. Um, I like what you say. I've heard you say it many times before. It's going to come back. And it has come back, right? I mean, rather than being down, 34, 35%, it's come back a bit. And what do you attribute almost a disconnect between the economy right now, which seems to be, sorry for saying, it seems to be going in the toilet, versus kind of the rise in the stock market the last month or so, last 3 weeks? There's a disconnect, and what would you attribute that?
Well, historically, there's always been a disconnect. The economy improves at a different pace than the stock market improves. Oftentimes the stock market will actually rise more quickly than the economy will improve. And that's sort of the nature of the beast, unfortunately. It's not always a direct connection because the stock market makes up, as you know, of a buyer and a seller. And if more sellers that day decide to sell, then the market will be down. than buyers, then the market will be down. So that will happen. Like you mentioned, like March, interesting enough, was the best performing month for the S&P 500 for many many years, and people didn't even realize that. And I think it's not that it was so great because it fell so much already, but what happens is investors are looking for that little glimmer of hope, and then they will gravitate back to the stock market because, interesting enough, investors are looking for opportunities as well as riding out the storm. So it's not just people looking to invest long term, but there's also people looking for value. And when they see certain sectors or industries that look inexpensive and they have long-term financial goals, then they're going to deploy and invest money. We're certainly seeing it with our clients. A lot of times, like I just did a presentation at NBC last week, and the employees were asking me, well, so like, are people investing right now, and are there opportunities? And I said, we certainly are doing that with our clients, not all of them, but depending on the clients. We have a lot of clients who have long-term financial goals, like looking to retire 20, 30 years from now. They have kids that are still like my kids' age. My oldest is 11, right? They're young. They're going to need to pay for college at some point, whatever college looks like at that point. And so when there's drops and corrections in the market like we're seeing now, there's certainly a lot of opportunities. And so we are very strategic on how we're investing monies right now. I think right now, a lot of people have been asking me, so how should we be investing right now? And you didn't ask this, but I'll tell you my answer. And I think it really, of course, it always depends on your situation because everybody is very different. You could be the same age, same years to retirement, same income, and you'll be completely different people. So everybody's different. So you have to invest very mindfully of that difference. But for some of my clients who have plenty of years ahead of them, like myself with my kids, right? And there's long-term financial goals. So whether it be college savings, whether it be retirement, we can be really mindful of areas that we like. Like for example, we love right now US growth and value. We definitely think there's a lot of value in the United States right now. So we're looking at strategic stocks, if you will, holdings. We're also at my firm, we've actually all through these years, last 20 years, we've actually created custom offerings for our clients that are not available to the public on certain stocks or equity positions that we love, and we structure deals. And so working on things like that. And I think that's I think that's one of the advantages of working with a really, really highly experienced team. Right now, you don't put your head into the ground. You figure out ways to build out, right? So those of you who are business owners, perhaps your business is down, but perhaps you still have income coming in. Those are opportunities to assess, do I reinvest that into my business? I actually think this is a great time to not only build your portfolio, but also build your brand. This is a wonderful time. There's more people looking and reading online than ever. And if you're missing the opportunity to share to your audience, which is your next ideal customer, right, or a client, then you're missing an opportunity. I was just talking to, so I actually partner up with LinkedIn Learning, and I have a course I created with them called How to Teach Your Kids About Money. And I'm working with my producer team now on multiple courses because we have seen the uptick, significant uptick. We're talking like 800%, if not more, eyeball in sort of visual content, right? So think about how you can translate your business into visual content and how that can translate to business to you. It might be something you've never done before. And how exciting is that, right? You probably felt that way when you first started your first business. I know I did several times going forward. And I don't know about you, but we're entrepreneurs. And so that means, why not create a second business? Why not create a third business on that's something that still has something to do with our industry, but that can make us even more productive? And I think that will get you out of the rut and going and moving forward.
I think that's great advice, Winnie. And I think it's, talking to some of our members, some of our business owners about how they're interacting right now with their customers. I mean, customers appreciate the fact that they're reaching out to them and talking to them and empathizing with the situation they're in. And I think that's certainly in line with a lot of what you preach. I can't remember the line you use about marketing, but like, what is it? Marketing without appearing to be marketing. I'm sure I have the adage wrong, but But I think it's true, and even our organization, it's just incredibly uncomfortable getting Melissa and me, or maybe not Melissa, she's fine with it, but getting us to do formats like this. I love conference calls, but we're getting a little more comfortable with this, and I think a lot of our members that fear these kinds of interactions are a lot more comfortable with it now. So that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah,
So
I can certainly jump on that, Chuck, if you want a little bit. Because I think your point is exactly right. We found, even like I've actually in the past trained financial advisors, and I think most of the times when you think of a financial advisor, you think of an extrovert, but I am an extreme introvert. And my husband laughs to this day that he goes, I can't believe that you're actually doing all this TV every day, and like what happened? And he's the extrovert, I'm the introvert. And the good news is like you said, if you do this, if you put yourself out there, you'll be pleasantly surprised. And the way I actually, it's funny because if you just rewound a few years ago, and you would tell me that I recently co-hosted a show with a producer, a longtime producer at CNBC, and if you would have said I would do that, I would have laughed in your face, because 7 years ago or 8 years ago when I first on CNBC, I don't think they would have ever invited me back. And now people tell my publicist, oh, wow, she's a natural. Well, a natural 7 years in the making. I would say right now, for those of you who are entrepreneurs, try to do Facebook Live or whatever you can every single day. Make a point to practice every day. That's the only way you get better. Right now, you can do Facebook Live and have no audience. You can have it just so you're watching yourself. But in order to get better at doing this, in order to get more comfortable, which will translate to more business, because that next generation wants to see you and feel you and trust you. Because we've done a huge, I'm involved with the Adobe Insiders, and so Adobe is this huge case study on Generation Z, which is that next generation, even younger than millennials. They want to see you and feel you and know you in order to trust you to do business with you. So if you don't put yourself out there, they have nothing to trust. So this is a great opportunity for you to just get out there and practice.
that's great, Winnie. Great advice. So you mentioned a few minutes ago about glimmers of hope you see. Is there sometimes it's hard to see those glimmers when you're dealing with such a bad contraction in the economy right now. But are there specific glimmers of hope you see right now? Whether it's Gilead, what's happening at Gilead, or interest rates, or the price of oil, or is there anything that you see right now and say, wow, that gives me a lot of hope. That's the glimmer of hope I see that really makes me excited about being an investor the next 5 or 10 years.
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of things that are right? If you take a look, if you just sit back for a moment and like stop reading financial news, stop listening to news a little bit and sit back. I mean, I do this exercise every day and I would strongly recommend you do this. Just completely unplug and go outside and look around your house and look how fortunate we are. And not only that, look at all the technology that you have. I mean, it comes down to like little things, like my iPhone is incredible, like how much I can do with my iPhone that I couldn't do 10 years ago or 20 years ago, right? I mean, silly things like going downstairs and seeing my Instapot on my kitchen, right? And seeing my kids be able to do distance learning because they have computers with webcams, with like those Bluetooth headphones, and like things that we couldn't do prior should excite you, because America has not changed, and you should never bet against America. America is absolutely the strongest and most beautiful country that there is, and we're so amazing to be a part of it, which means we'll come out of this stronger than most countries, if not all countries. And the people have hope. There's always going to be areas where we're going to feel depressed and stressed out, and that will impact how we manage our money and our businesses. But we can't let that happen. We need to focus on activity. On days when you're just feeling like you're rut and you're stressed out, take the time to take good care of yourself and allow yourself to be less productive that day. Totally okay to like take a breather, go out, do whatever you need to do, and then get back. And then when you get back, think of other ways to build your business. Right now, so much of the world is on hold. They're on pause. Well, for an entrepreneur, you're like yourself, this gives you opportunity. When everyone else is hanging out and just resting, guess what you can do? You can push the fuel, right? I have never worked harder in my life. My schedule looks, I see people on social media talking about how they have all this extra time and watching more Netflix. I haven't watched TV in probably 7 years, and I don't, except when I'm on the plane, and I'm not on a plane right now. I don't have time to watch it. My colleagues are saying, oh, you should watch the show on Netflix. I honestly have no time to watch Netflix. And I think that's good. And those of your entrepreneurs, I would recommend right now, try and dabble a little bit on social media. Get more active than you normally are, and don't just talk about what you're going through, but think about ways to leverage your business and talk about and build goodwill for your business. Because I have this saying that, as a financial advisor, right, during the Madoff crisis and whatnot, that was sort of my aha moment of starting social media. I was pregnant, I was having my first child, and I knew that I still had a message to share. And if I didn't share, then the message would be shared that financial advisors are not trustworthy, they're criminals, they're going to take your money, and you should have nothing to do with them, and you should stay away from them by 18 feet, not even 6 feet. And I remember saying like, "Oh, that's terrible because my clients love me. If I could just bottle up my clients to show you how much they love me, you would want to know me and do business with me." And I realized that, so whose responsibility is that to show? Is it other people's responsibility to learn who I am and my business? Or is it my job to tell people about my business and what I do and how I would be if they were to do business with me? So I realized that that was my responsibility. So I went full force, jumped into social media, started talking about my story. And clients were saying, and even not even clients, but all the other advisors, like, what are you doing? And people like, you should spend less time on social media. Even my partner of 19 years, he said, I think you should spend less time on social media and more time doing seminars and cold calling and, networking to get clients. I was like, I think this is going to work. And lo and behold, it worked, right? And it works so much so that now, you know, I get, I have clients coming or, they were coming into the office. Now they're doing Zoom calls with me and they're like, I feel like I already know you. I was like, because you do. And so, like, literally, what used to happen used to be a 2 or 3 hour meeting of me convincing them why they should do business with me. Now it's like, I already know you and I already trust you and I want to do business with you. And I think that's an opportunity that you as an entrepreneur have right now. And this is why I love working. Well, most of my clients are business owners, are entrepreneurs. And this is why I love working with entrepreneurs, because they get it. And I manage their money, but I also tell them, this is how you can build your presence on LinkedIn or social or Instagram, whatever industry that I think would work for them. And I say, think about it this way. And then think about leverage. I feel like that's something I love to do. I've built businesses all my life, and sold very successful businesses throughout my life. And so I feel like that value can come and help my clients, right? I worked from the solo practitioner that just started their business all the way to helping manage the stock option plan for DreamWorks Animation in 2005 and on. I mean, this is sort of the brain trust that I can share with my clients, is all this great, smart entrepreneur journeys and advice, and what's working right now, what's not working, and things that maybe you might not think of because you're not talking to hundreds of entrepreneurs every single day. So I think there's a lot that we can do, and I'm excited to see what you're going to do next, for sure.
I have one last question, then we'll let the group chime in and ask a question or two. What would your client say about you if somebody said, and tell me about Winnie Sun. Winnie, you've been a client of hers for 10 years. What's the kind of typical comments you'd hear?
Well, most of our clients stay with us. Like, we almost don't lose any clients. So most of our clients have been with us at least one generation. Some of them as one, I think even 3 generations. But I think they would say that, that she really cares about us, and she spends as much time as we need to talking about whatever it is that I want to talk to her about. Excuse me, and she doesn't charge me for it, which is really cool. But I think they know that deep down inside that I'm always with them and have stayed with them, and I generally love spending time with them, which is really cool. Um, I don't know, you would have to ask them. A lot of times, new clients will come to me and I'm like, I should have you should just talk to my clients. So we do these workshops all the time in town halls and whatnot, and for our clients, and they're like, you're that person's your, well, we're so confidential. We don't talk about who's who and what, and whatnot. But if they, oftentimes they find that someone that they know is a client of ours, and I think that they would just say that they know that the experience is there. We've been doing this a really long time. Um, and I guess probably they would love the fact that our fees are reasonable, because when we were at Smith Barney, I think we left Smith Barney when Morgan Stanley bought us out. So we never would have, we loved Smith Barney, but Morgan Stanley was a different culture and it was time to leave. And that was in 2011. And so when we left, our clients, almost every single one of our clients came with us, and the fees dropped by nearly 50% when they came over. And they're like, well, we get to keep the same team, but our fees went down. Like, yeah, that's what happened. And then since that time to now, our fees haven't increased. And they're like, we're just expecting that fees increase like it used to at Smith Barney. I was like, yeah, well, we run a pretty small shop right now, but we manage a lot of assets for a lot of really, really wonderful clients. And so we don't really feel like we need to, because we practice what we preach. I am still my partner always laughs at me because I'm still the poor kid that got the hamburgers once a month. I still feel like I can't spend much money, and that's good. I think that is what the entrepreneur spirit is all about. I'm sure many of you who are watching feel the exact same way about your business. Like we're really mindful of how to run businesses. So when situations are dire like they are now, we're gonna be just fine. We're gonna pull through, but make really smart financial decisions. So yes, it's been like a complete honor to be with all of you. Thank you so much for listening to me talk. And yeah, I would love to hear any questions that you might have. And don't be shy, because I should be the easiest person to talk to.
Thanks, Winnie. Anyone, if you have a question, just do me a favor and take your speakers off mute and take your microphone off mute. I'm sorry to, or if you're unable to do that for some reason, just go ahead and chat it to me or email it.
Yes.
Anyone?
Bueller?
If not, I have questions I can throw at you all too.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing yet. So if you have questions for us, go ahead, Winnie. We'll see if we can answer those for others.
Sure. I guess I would ask, for those of your entrepreneurs out there, sort of what are your biggest concerns right now? If anything, like obviously right now, depending on what type of business you run, your company could be, working completely from home, or you could still be in your brick and mortar but running at a fraction. And you're seeing all the information about how businesses are allowed to come back and open, but only like a 25% rate or 50% rate. Um, and like here in California, like some bookstores and whatnot are allowed to reopen, retail stores, but only for curbside delivery. Like, I guess it'll be interesting to see the mindset of the entrepreneur, how they feel about that, and what they're going to do to continue to sustain business. Because we see like for example, Chipotle. You may have seen earnings on Chipotle. Chipotle is just fine, and they're almost at the same level that they were pre-crisis, because they really ramped up online ordering. And yet many people really first started going to Chipotle, and even actually looking at them as a long-term investment, because they felt like the experience of going into Chipotle and be able to customize your burrito was really meaningful. But now, like, people can't customize except online, and they can't see how much meat they put into your burrito, but it's still doing well. So it'll be interesting to see how. I'm curious to see how many of you are pivoting your business.
Any comments on that? Any comments on Winnie's question? Winnie, one question we get a lot is, you know, you're never going to have a perfect, and I think you've made some positive comments about the government's response to this crisis, whether it's from the Federal Reserve or monetary or fiscal policy, Congress, the Federal Reserve, whatever it might be. There have been a couple of snafus with the PPP program. You know, I think one thing we've heard is, you know, having to use, you know, 75% of the funds for labor, which is great. But that doesn't leave a lot of room for overhead and paying rent and that kind of stuff. You know, if we could turn the clock back 6 weeks, do you think that maybe that should have been tweaked a little differently, maybe a little more in favor of giving business owners a little more discretion where to use those funds rather than mandating 75% go to labor?
Yeah, Chuck, I couldn't agree with you more. I think they did in my opinion, they could have certainly improved that process so much better. For one thing, I don't think they needed to have all the small business owners apply for this because we've been filing taxes every quarter anyway. They've been seeing our payroll records from 2019 and 18 anyway. So why did you need to make us go through so many hoops, so much stress, so much anxiety, bombard our accountants for that information? And like you said, so much of it's going to payroll, which is great, but how about those of us who are still paying rent on office space or buildings that we can't use, that can't function, right? What about that? Because that is obviously money that's going to someone else who also needs to sustain themselves and their business. So I agree with you completely. I think there's so much room that could have been improved. And in addition, the process of applying was so treacherous for so many people. And even like I was talking to so many of my clients, reminding them to apply for this. So many people that you would think would know to apply didn't know to apply. So I think there's still room to improve. And so first off, you gave a stimulus check. You just did so for everybody that already had filed their taxes and that data was already there. You just basically were able to interject money into their bank accounts if they gave you the bank account information for their tax refund. If not, they could go online and update that information or you would mail them a check. So why couldn't you have done that for small business owners? And why couldn't you have done that for their employees? And I agree with you. I think I think there's a lot of things that they could have done better with this stimulus package. But unfortunately, you and I aren't running the government. Like, for example, the whole stimulus check of that 75,000 for individuals, 150,000 for married couples, and then 500 per child. Well, that works great, except that you've basically eliminated half of New York City, half of New York, the state of New York, which needs dire help, and half of California needs dire help, and good parts of other parts of the country where based on standard of living, because their housing costs are so high, their income is higher. You've heard of the Google security guard who makes almost 90,000 a year living out of their car because they can't afford rent, right? That person didn't get a stimulus check, and that person probably needs a stimulus check. So I think there's a lot of things they think that could have been improved with this stimulus package, and I don't even think they're going to get this done right completely this round. And unfortunately, I don't even know if they'll learn for the next pandemic or natural disaster that we'll have. But certainly, I think there's room to improve. And I think most importantly, our government and everybody involved needs to increase their level of empathy right now to be more sympathetic of all people and not just certain types of people. So
That's
hopefully
great.
that's helpful.
Forgive me, I'm sorry. We got a good question from one of our members. You're in this, we can see your background, this lovely home you're in. I'm sure you love working from home, but where do you see the real estate investment trust and commercial mortgage-backed security market headed? No buy or sell recommendation, but just in general, I think a lot of us, it's made us think about what we're in this, Melissa and I are in this beautiful office overlooking Baltimore Harbor. And it's the two of us here and we're here, but we could be working from home today. So in terms of the long-term impact on the REIT market, the commercial mortgage-backed security market, do you have any sense of what the impact might be?
Well, I'll tell you this way. I think, things are always temporary and our memories move pretty quickly. So what I mean by that is temporarily, it's like It's like my son, right now, my 6-year-old, he's finally home long enough that he's learning how to ride his bicycle without training wheels, right? And so yesterday he fell again, but luckily he had knee pads on, and he could have had a really bad scratch, and he had one last week. So he's a little scared. Temporarily, that's what's going to happen. Those of us who own buildings that rent in high rises and beautiful spaces that you have right now are afraid to go back to work. They're feeling like, hey, you know what? I can work from home. Everything's sort of working. The internet's fine. The light's fine. I'm saving a bunch of money on rent. This is not bad. I think I can do this. And so you will see temporarily, I think, like the sharing workspace sharing, like the WeWorks of the world, and nice fine office building. You're going to see that the demand, I think, temporarily is going to be lower. People are looking. I've heard a lot of business owners say this. I think I'm going to need less space. I don't need all that I thought I needed. I don't know if I need that view, like you said, over the harbor or whatever. But, and there's a big but, and that's the good news, this will be temporary. What's going to happen is as soon as we get back to business, things get to improving again, guess what? A lot of times, and this happens with investors of all sizes, I work with clients who are just up and coming all the way to like Fortune 500 company employees and executives, right? What happens is your income, you start to change your lifestyle based on your income. And when you get to a certain level, you look for things to buy or to acquire or to improve. So right now they feel like, wow, I can really, pare down, I can work from home. And let me tell you, I own my own office building. I can't wait to get back to the office, but I know this is safer, so I'm staying here. For me, this is definitely temporary. And I'm sure other people are going to feel that way. Executives are going to do well. They're going to expand their business. They're going to want to show levels of success, and it will come back. So what you're seeing right now is temporary because we will evolve and we will want better. And we're America, so everything comes back. But I think temporarily, you got to find ways to sustain yourself. So during that time when people are still feeling cautious about spending, find ways to be creative with your space and your buildings and your holdings and your acquisitions, and find ways to still keep the momentum going. And whatever you do, absolutely do not disappear on your potential audience. So those people that will come back, that will want space, that will want to invest with you, whatever they may be, whatever they look like, continue to get in front of them regularly and continue to look to better and increase your audience, meaning that don't just be satisfied if you have 600 or 6,000 people on your distribution list. Keep on working right now every single hour to try increase that. Even if you get 1 or 2 more subscribers per day, that's a good thing. And you want to keep on doing that because your ideal audience will come back and want what you have to offer sooner than going out cold.
That's great, Winnie. And we got another question from one of our members. Starting new businesses in this environment makes a lot of sense. I think that's really an affirmation to your earlier comment. But any new venture needs seed capital and ramp up time. What about acquisitions or mergers? Any advice on what to look for? Any sectors that appeal to you? Yeah, there's the question.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm a financial advisor and I'm a very, very active accredited investor. And so it's smart. And I like your thinking of looking at acquisitions. So if you're in a situation where you're sitting on capital, I mean, you look at Apple, how much capital they have, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do acquisitions because where you're looking for acquisitions, obviously buying at lower price points is much more attractive than paying like 2 months ago was a lot more expensive. You just saw J. Crew just went bankrupt, and I'm forgetting right now who else went bankrupt, but there's going to be situations where you're going to be able to buy things at a much more significant discount than ever. So I think it makes sense, but I think I would be really, really mindful. I would still continue to do as much due diligence, if not more, in this process. So you want to look at number one, our obviously market share, profitability, and also how they're doing right now. And you're looking at the longevity of their employee base, because really you're not only buying the brand and the company and their their clientele, but you're also buying that sort of the internal structure, right? Maybe you don't need that structure, and that's fine. I mean, I know a lot of people in my industry, financial advisors, are looking to acquire other practices because a lot of advisors in my industry, unfortunately, just can't handle the stress. They're just so overwhelmed. I actually talked to an advisor not long ago, maybe 6 months ago, and he had all these trophies in his office, right? And a vice president title and this and that at a big firm. And I said, how long have you been in business? He's like, 6 years, almost 7. I have a lot of experience. I was like, so you've never been in a bad market, have you? He's like, no, but I've read about it and this and that. Like, so you really haven't experienced 9/11 and the housing crisis and the financial crisis and how bad it can be and how you're going to lead your clients out. They're like, no, but I'll be fine. Well, guess what? Don't see him anywhere, and I think that's just an example in our industry, and I'm sure that's the same with your industry. So I think right now, if you're a buyer and you're financially able to, and you've always wanted to look at an acquisition, I think it's probably not a bad idea. I would certainly, though, make sure you had the right advisors to help you with that process. There's a lot of great people out there that can give you a quantification process for these businesses. But I would say right now, look for value and take your time and don't rush into it because I think you have time.
Parting words, Winnie? Any parting words for our members?
Well, I guess the only thing I would just say is if you're still here with me, thank you so much. It's been an honor to spend this time with you. What I would say is what I've been telling a lot of my clients right now. I said, right now, there's so much opportunity out there. I was in this business during 9/11 and during the financial crisis of 99, 2000, like during the 2000. I will tell you, this is the absolute best time to build your business. And it doesn't feel like that right now, but I promise you, if we hunker down and we figure out ways, and I'm happy to kind of share some of the ideas with you when we have a chance to talk and kind of walk through your business and figure out what angles we can take. This is the absolute best time to be building market share. And so don't lose this opportunity. It's not going to be forever, but you can do it and you should do it. And I want you to do it.
Awesome. Thank you, Winnie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It'll be okay. We'll be okay together. Don't worry. As long as just stay home and don't get sick.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Winnie. And if there's no other questions, I think that we can go ahead and wrap it up so you can continue with your busy day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all of you. It's been a complete honor, and I appreciate being invited to speak, and I apologize for technical difficulties on my end. I know what happened because I'm actually really techie.
One of those things. Thank you so very much, Winnie. Stay well.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.